Now, why would you doubt them? Well, it could be images like this, which shows a NASA helium balloon taking up a pretty large satellite. In fact, NASA has been launching 50 balloons a day, some of them carrying 8,000 pounds. That's as much as 3 small cars.
Houston, we have a problem.
So you might remember a while back I made the website ball.earth. I set up that website as a waiting game for NASA to show us a 24-hour video feed of Earth from the International Space Station. You can see here that the time since the ISS has been in orbit is 5,748 days, 20 hours, 17 minutes, and 29 seconds. And the time that they've had a live feed is still stuck at 0. They've never had a 24/7 live feed from space of the Earth. Don't get me wrong, they do show you about 45 minutes every hour and a half, but the other time you get a blank screen. And that's why I started this petition. The petition was to ask NASA to provide a 24/7 video feed of the Earth from the International Space Station. And it said, since 1958, NASA has sent men, probes, and telescopes to the Moon, Mars, Jupiter, and beyond. While they studied Earth, asteroids, planets, and created the International Space Station, they provided thrills and wonder to both old and young alike. NASA has been able to do all of this because of the billions of dollars it received from U.S. taxpayers. They also were granted thousands of patents, which they later sold to companies who in turn sold products back to those who paid for the inventions originally. One thing they have not done that defies reason is to provide those who funded their programs a 24/7 live video feed of Earth from the ISS. Every person on Earth deserves to see where they live, which should be simple since the ISS is already in orbit. This change should be implemented today. Unfortunately, we only had 778 signatures out of the 100,000 goal, so you'll see that the petition has been closed. However, I still agree with that premise. There's no reason why NASA, who exists only because we all give them money, should have the ability to shut down the live ISS. They should not be able to stop us from seeing where we live 24/7, every day, every month, every year. If you feel differently, that's your opinion. My opinion is it's a bunch of horseshit. It's our Earth. It's where we live. They should have to show us, and they never have, not one time in the past 18 years that they've been in orbit, provided a 24/7 video feed of Earth. Not for one day have they provided an uninterrupted video feed. Isn't it strange that to actually prove the ISS is in space, that it is in orbit, and it's doing exactly what they have said for 18 years, they would need to provide a 24/7 video feed? But, with only $60 million a day, I guess you've got to put money where it's needed. There's more important things to pay for, like ape suits sent to the ISS, Charlie Bolden's $16,000 flights, and Star Wars uniforms for all the astronauts. Much more important than showing those who have provided the money for NASA to do every single thing it's done a view of where they live. You see, many people don't quite understand or see where deception is possible. Some think that because you can see a little light in the sky with a telescope, that it proves the ISS is up there. They are the same ones who think satellites are possible, that gravity kicks are possible, RCS thrusters and pictures sent billions of miles back to Earth are all possible, but can't see how a light in the sky might be fabricated. And that, of course, is where a 24/7 live cam would come into play. Just because you can see the ISS fly by in the sky above your head at a certain time of night or day doesn't mean that that is the actual ISS and it is exactly where they say. That would take more observers. But if we had multiple observers on the ground with telescopes, all tracking the ISS, and a live video feed from the ISS looking back down at Earth, then you would have what's needed for proof. You would be able to test it all to make sure that the craft is exactly where it's supposed to be, and to make sure you see it exactly where it's supposed to be. As it is now, they shut off the camera every 45 minutes. How would you ever be able to determine if it was the actual ISS that you were seeing? Now, why would you doubt them? Well, it could be images like this, which shows a NASA helium balloon taking up a pretty large satellite. In fact, NASA has been launching 50 balloons a day, some of them carrying 8,000 pounds. That's as much as 3 small cars. You could also look into the fact that Google has just purchased Titan Aerospace. And who exactly is Titan Aerospace? Well, they make drones. It says here in the article, Titan touts a variety of applications for its drones, including data delivery, crop monitoring, and search and rescue aid. These drones fly at 65,000 feet. The vehicles can stay aloft for up to 5 years without having to land or refuel, making them an intriguing possibility for beaming out internet service or fooling the entire world. I added that last part. Of course, it could be the ISS that we see high in the sky. It's only 250 miles away. Now think, when you're flying in an airplane, you're about 7 miles high. Do you think you'd be able to see a lit football field from 7 miles high? How about 20 miles high? How about 100 miles high? How about 200 miles high? How about 250 miles high? Well, just look up in the sky. You can easily see the ISS right above your head. No chance it's at 65,000 feet. Clearly, it's 250 miles away, but if you look slightly off to the right, you can see Cassiopeia, which is just a short 95 quadrillion miles away. Man, these eyes, made up of stardust, spewed out at the Big Bang, and slowly evolved by natural selection, are amazing. So, I did go and look for some ISS pictures from the ground, and if you could please look into it, maybe you can find some for me, because I could only find these small images. I went to spacepics.com, and this is what you get. By the time you bring them up, they're all 250 by 250 or terrible little pictures. And to me, if you're talking about science and proving something, why don't we see very large pictures? We know that the P900 takes images probably 4,000 by 3,000. And why isn't the EXIF data completely intact? That's what you would expect to see by somebody who's proving that what we see in the sky is shaped exactly like the ISS. Let's run some of these through photo forensics. So on this first image here, you'll see the ISS, and it just looks a little bit blotchy there in the ELA, which is the air level analysis, and you'll see this picture that I took of the moon is obviously much smoother, and that's how you can partially tell if something has not been edited or changed. Now you'll see here, this is the EXIF data, and it's very short, and again, I just ask why people are taking their EXIF data out of these pictures if they're so proud that they're taking pictures and that they're scientific and that these are really pictures of the ISS in space. Here's the next picture. It also is, this one's really bad, as you can tell. Absolutely has been edited, and there's no metadata. Now this next picture is actually pretty good. But when you look at the metadata, you'll see down below for the history of it in Adobe, it says saved, converted, derived, saved, converted, derived, saved. And that's usually a sign that it's been saved and converted, possibly derived, possibly saved and converted again. So usually that's a good sign that the image has been edited or changed in some way. Again, it's not absolute proof. Somebody can take a picture back and forth between different computers. They can save it. They can convert it. They can do lots of things and have never touched the image. But if we're talking about scientific and proofs, and that's important because we should be dealing with the original image here, and obviously this one is not. It doesn't mean that his image is fake. It just means it's not going to be sufficient if we're looking to have it stand up against scientific analysis. All right, next we're heading to the site real quick that's called Astro Spider. Lots of pictures there of the sky and the stars and the planets. Here you see some pictures of Saturn, supposedly. And starting at the bottom image, and a lot of people might think this is what you see with your camera or this is what you see with your telescope. And you'll notice in each of these he explains how he got the image. The first one we're looking at was a total of 38 stacked images with some unsharp focus. The second one up is 51 frames. So it took 51 frames for him to get that image out, which is a bit strange for a gigantic planet like Saturn. Next one up is actually taken by Hubble. He was using it, he said, for reference point, which is smart to do. It's from NASA. And one above that's 270 stacked images. The one above that, 300 stacked images. So just pointing out that those images you see of Saturn that you tell us that are taken from telescopes may be taken from telescopes, but over the course of many, many images. Next, we're just looking at more ISS images. These all look extremely suspect to me. Again, even if these are what we think they are, it doesn't mean that the ISS is as high as they say. Lots of questions still to be asked and answered. And next you see a few more ISS images. And you'll see here in his gallery viewer, and most of these you click on and they're really just not excellent images. They're tiny. See this one here? That looks like a middle finger to me, not the ISS. And that one there looks like an upside down city. So I'm not really sure what's going on here, but you can check out that site if you want. Astro Spider, he's got tons of pictures. Okay, now I went to metabunk.org. I don't know if you've ever been to this site before. Pretty interesting. They've just got a bunch of guys that debunk everything, which doesn't seem to be very tough. You just go to the government website and anything that you could ever imagine would be debunked. 9/11 will be debunked and everything else. Sandy hoax was real. You name it. But in this particular thread, which is marked Space Station Photos Disprove the Flat Earth Theory, kind of took me aback and said, okay, let me see. Well, look at this image that he's showing and then read his comment here, which is fine until he gets to the point where he says, and this is irrefutable proof that the Earth is not flat. Now, take this in, please. We're looking at metabunk.org. Their job is to debunk anything, meaning if you come up with any conspiracy, they're going to shut you down. They're going to say, nope, they've got the evidence to prove that whatever you're saying is wrong. Yet they claim that a picture that you can't even tell what it is of the ISS in the sky irrefutably proves that the Earth is not flat. I did like this little image here that he did post after, and he was just pointing out that the ball Earth that we get is definitely a fisheye lens, and that other image that was just up is actually the most that the astronauts would even be able to see, which is surprisingly a lot like the hot air balloons we actually have been seeing sent up, or the weather balloons. Now we'll just take a look at some of the clips that are just funny submissions from different space agencies. This first one is from NASA. It is a side view of the globe, which has always bothered me because I don't think it can exist. And the reason I say that, see if you follow me here, we know that the ISS is going around the planet, they say, correct? It's in orbit. And yet, if there's a camera on the inside of the craft, it always remains upright. Meaning if you're watching it at home, you see the image upright during the entire time. It doesn't ever flip over, it doesn't ever flip to the side, because it's in space, right? There is no up or down, so there's no way for the camera to ever orient itself. It would be where it is at all times. Yet they'll show you views from underneath the globe or from the side of the globe, which would be impossible. How would the camera know that it's on the side of the globe? Every image we get should be from the top middle. I could be wrong, but that's how I understand space to operate. And if it didn't operate that way, then we would see the camera flip upside down as the space station was in orbit of Earth. My next question to you is, how do you argue with this? You just can't. Real is real. Real fake. Next, we get to see China's chance to fake a moon orbit. Let's see how they do. Yeah, that looks real. Now, oh, here we go. Everybody, we're moving here. Yeah, the ball's that small. Okay, got you. Oh, now we get shadows. Okay, stopped. Okay, reorienting itself. Luckily, it's got that gimbal, huh? X-axis. And here we go again. I mean, this is really, really good footage right here. Thank you, China, for adding to the preponderance of evidence. Is it going to crash into the moon here? This is definitely interesting. Is anybody willing to go out and say this is real? That's what I want to know. Somebody make that comment with your real name. Say, this is absolutely real. This is going over the moon. And looks like it's getting dark here. Except for on the little fire tube there. Okay. Whatever China says, huh?